Welcome into Hittin Hard with Jon Chuckery here on Locked On Sports Atlanta. Today on the show, I'm going to give Stetson Bennett my vote. Steve Weish talks about maybe an under-the-radar impactful rookie, and should the Braves make a run at an Avenger? It's all next. Hittin Hard with Jon Chuckery here on Locked On Sports Atlanta.
This is Hittin Hard with Jon Chuckery, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, and it starts now.
We welcome you into a Tuesday edition of Hittin Hard with Jon Chuckery here on Locked On Sports Atlanta. We ask you to head over to youtube.com, put Locked On Sports Atlanta into the search browser, hit that subscribe button when you find our page. Over 2,500 people now. Really appreciate you growing that community for us. Leave us a comment there. Of course, we're also free and available on all of your favorite podcast platforms, including Spotify and Odyssey. Leave us a 5-star review and then give me a follow on my personal Twitter page. That would be at JMCH316. So I had a chance, if you got a chance to be on YouTube yesterday, I was at the SEC Media Days, going to be there all week long for the event. And, look, it's always a fun time there, and it really is the kind of unofficial kickoff to the college football season when SEC Media Days rolls along. Now, one of the things that is fun about being, I guess, part of the media, although I don't really consider myself a media member, unlike the Randy McMichaels and Hugh Douglases of the world. I'm more of an entertainer, but we do get a chance to vote for the preseason all SEC teams by being there. And I had this discussion, and I asked you all on our YouTube page yesterday. If we know that Bryce Young is without question, he's the Heisman Trophy winner, right? He's without question the number one quarterback in the SEC returning, right? So as far as first team all SEC quarterback goes, it'll be a unanimous vote. I can't even imagine somebody voting for somebody other than Bryce Young to be the unanimous first team all SEC quarterback. But who is number two? And the thing that's interesting about this year's SEC class is there are a lot of really good quarterbacks, and there are a lot of quarterbacks that have very high side potential. There are a lot of quarterbacks that, if they can take that next step, could certainly put themselves into discussions. There's Will Levis from Kentucky, who some people think is going to be a top 10 NFL draft pick. Some people think Anthony Richardson can be a top 10 NFL draft pick. If you look at Spencer Rattler coming over to South Carolina now, a couple of years ago, I had him as the Heisman favorite. And, a lot of people thought by this time he would be the number one overall draft pick, right? I mean, there are a lot of guys that are in that mix. My vote, and you can call me a homer, but I'm going to go with Stetson Bennett. I think Stetson Bennett has earned the right. Look, is he dynamic, flashy, this, that, and the other? And I know people love to call him a game manager, but he did make enough plays last year for Georgia. You can't just game manage your way to a national title. Yeah, but their defense, I get it. And you still have to make plays. He had to make plays against Alabama. Now, look, in their game against Alabama in the SEC championship game, where it didn't go very well and they couldn't keep up offensively, yeah, he couldn't make enough plays. But when it came to Michigan, when it came to Alabama in the national championship game, when he was asked to make plays, he made big throws in that game. And again, you can't dumb your way to 3,000 yards and 30 touchdowns in the world of college football. So when I start to look at the landscape, and we'll talk a little bit more about the landscape here and some more thoughts about Stetson Bennett in just a second, but I want to talk to you about my friends over at Dave. Listen, we always get in these little crunches, right? We're running a little bit short of money. I'm literally just getting back from vacation, over the weekend and getting back in town and spending all the money to be at the beach. And it was great, but I'm looking at the bank account and saying, whoops, whoa, wait a second. I'm going to need myself a little bit of extra money here to try to just get through this, this particular week and stuff like that. Dave is an opportunity for you to be able to kind of meet those short-term needs with a banking app that can help you to get as much as $500 instantly with their extra cash program. So listen, you got to get some gas in the fuel tank, you got to get some food, whatever it is. We all understand. We're all there. We've all been there as far as a little bit of financial, instability here. But Dave is one of those apps that you can download that gives you a chance to find that financial relief in the short term. And again, you can get as much as $500 instantly. So what I want you to do is I want you to download the Dave app from your app store right now. That's Dave, D-A-V-E, the Dave app right now. And if you sign up for their Extra Cash account, download the app, sign up for the Extra Cash account, you could get up to as much as $500 instantly. So terms and conditions, go to dave.com/legal. Instant transfer fees apply. Banking provided by Evolve, member FDIC. But that's Dave, D-A-V-E. Dave is the app. Go there now, download it, sign up for Extra Cash, and you might be in line to pick up an extra $500 to help you get through the week. Now, when you start to look at the landscape of quarterbacks, I do think that there are some guys that have definite ability. If they take that next step, the ceiling starts to get higher. The Hendon Hookers, KJ Jefferson, Will Rogers. There are a lot of talented guys. Again, we talked about Rattler's a guy who, I thought would be in the Heisman mix and certainly thought about being a top 10 NFL draft pick. Anthony Richardson, Will Levis, those are guys that are looked at as top 10 NFL draft picks. But there is something to being the guy that led his team to a national title. And again, I understand how good their defense was and how historically good it was. But it wasn't like they won all those games 3-0. Okay? It wasn't like they won 6-3 all season long. Stetson Bennett made enough plays, and he's done enough that there's no reason to think that a guy coming back on a national championship contending team, and I do think that, let's say worst case scenario, Georgia's going to be the number 3 team in the nation. That's the worst case scenario. And I've got no problem if you tell me that Alabama's 1, Ohio State is 2, and Georgia's 3. I get that. But there's a reason why Georgia, even though they lost a lot of defensive personnel, and yes, I understand they've got a lot of returning guys, and they're probably going to have 3 more top 10 picks off their defense, and Ringo and Smith and Jalen Carter, right? They're going to have 3 more guys drafted really high this year in the draft. But part of that is the fact that Stetson Bennett did come back. They have a lot of weapons. Obviously, Brock Bowers is maybe the best pass catcher in all of the SEC. Well, part of that is Stetson had to get the football to him. I think Stetson Bennett has earned the right and earned my vote that I feel like that there is a known quantity, and I feel like that he's a guy that if he ups his game just even a little bit, again, we're talking about a guy with 3,000 yards and 30 touchdowns last year. That's not game managing. Even in the world of college football, 3,000 yards, and by the way, he didn't start all 12 games last year, right, during the regular season. Remember that JT Daniels was the guy who started the Clemson game, right? And then JT Daniels started against South Carolina, and they brought Stetson in. He did have a bad pick, but when JT Daniels went down, that's when Stetson took over and led them the rest of the way. So I'm going to give my vote to Stetson Bennett. And I think part of it is just when there's no easy, clear-cut guy. Because you can make a case. I've got no problem if you make me a case for Hendon Hooker, KJ Jefferson, Will Levis, Anthony Richardson, Spencer Rattler. Okay? There's a lot of guys in that mix that if you told me you're going to make a case for them being second team All-SEC, I'll listen. I would listen to it. But what I'm going to tell you is that my vote's going to go to the guy that I know has already won a national championship, has decided to come back for another year, and has a whole crap ton of offensive personnel around him, from running backs to wide receivers to tight ends to 5-star recruits. They're going to have a tremendous offensive line. In fact, they may be one of the top 1, 2, 3 offensive lines in the country this year. I think there is something to that. And I think the reputation that Bennett has gotten at times is warranted. I won't disagree that at times it was, hey, he maybe is sort of a game manager, but you look at his yards per attempt, again, 3,000 yards and 30 touchdowns in not a complete full season out there. He did enough that I think he's earned the right that I'm going to make him my vote for the SEC second team quarterback. And I think when you take about a jumbled mess of guys, and there are a whole bunch of guys that you can make arguments for, I think the thing that I look at is the fact that who's the biggest winner, because that still is what it's all about in college football. Who's the biggest winner? That hands down goes to Stetson Bennett at the end of the day. All right, when we come back, Steve Weish, talking about the Atlanta Falcons, says there's one under-the-radar rookie to really watch out for. We'll talk about that, and will he be right? It's up next on Hittin' Hard with Jon Chuckery here on Locked On Sports Atlanta.